Hello, everybody. Welcome to Making Etsy Make Sense with Bryan. That's me.
Mandy.
Mandy.
Oh, it's playing it back.
And I just had to kill the playback because we were playing it back. So, today we are going to be talking about branding. But let's wait for a couple more people to join us. And I guess the stream does work because we just heard it play from another tab. How is everyone doing on this fine Tuesday afternoon, evening, or morning, depending on where you are? Sorry we didn't make it last week. We had major computer issues, and then I got sick. So again. We've been to 3 events in the past month and a half, and I got sick at 2 of them. This is why we don't go out in public. If you're here, say hello. Hi in Florida. If you're a Facebook user, we will not know who you are. If you're coming through YouTube, then we will know who you are. So, hi, Facebook user. And today we are going to be talking about brands and branding. Hey, Kimmy. Hey, Kelly. Hey, Emma. Hi, Facebook user. Again, if you're a Facebook user, we can't see your name, so sorry, we're not going to be able to say names. Hi, Laurie. Hey, Joanne. Hey, sorry, Joni. It's very small, and we have a bright light in our face so that you can see us. And we have a cat. Hey, Brett. Missed one. And we have Itchy here to join us. This is Itchy. He's a cat. And he's decided to join us because he heard us talking. Hopefully he leaves us alone a little bit today. We will find out. But he's part of our brand, so it works.
He's part of the brand.
He's part of the brand. And don't worry, the other one will come and join us as we go as well. We have 13 people with us right now. And there we go. Okay, Itch. Oh, okay. The other cat took the spot, so we're just going to have to deal with cats for a bit. That's fine.
They're standing on each other.
They are standing on each other.
Okay.
All right. So today, we are talking about branding.
And how to hook your customers. There we go.
How to hook your customers. Oh, am I supposed to eat this now?
All right.
Being a 3D printing company, we can luckily just make props randomly, and
well, we made one prop.
We made one prop. 2 props. It's two pieces. But today we are going to be talking about brands and branding.
I feel like we're very low energy today.
We're very low energy today.
Sorry.
It's been a long week between sickness. Didn't have any Buckleys on me, so I downed some Benylin. That way I'm not coughing on camera and hopefully not sniffling. And yeah. Brands and branding.
So, like, this can be a little bit of a convoluted topic. We're going to try to make it as interesting as possible.
And break it down as simplistic as possible, too, because it does mean so many things, and it also means nothing at the same time. It means everything, but it means not what you think it means. It means different things than what we originally took brands and branding to mean, or what anyone even thinks brands and branding mean.
Yeah, it's a different, like, a lot of people think it's a certain thing, and it's more of an encompassing umbrella type of situation. So we'll try to make it as interesting as possible. We just want to make sense for you. Yeah, so we'll kind of go through it, take a little pause to make sure you understand. If you don't, as always, ask your questions. We don't wait till the end to answer questions. We answer them right through. So this is interactive and we're live. So yeah,
Yay!
Ask your questions and we'll answer them as we go and make sure that this all makes sense.
And hi, Tamara. Hi, Britt.
Hey.
Oh, I said Britt. Okay. So
we have some notes just to keep us on track. So if we're looking this way, then
or this way.
Oh, they're on. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're both ways. So there's a big difference between your brand and your branding. So your brand is more how you are perceived by people. A lot of people think that your brand is your logo and your everything else that you do out there, your social
slogan,
media,
your colors and all that stuff.
Yeah, but that's really just what creates the brand. That's what helps to influence your brand and your branding. But your brand is actually how other people perceive you. So when you think of McDonald's or you think of Coca-Cola or you think of Cursed by Design, it's what it makes you feel. So the branding of even making Etsy make sense. It's not necessarily that particular logo. That's just the logo that we made. That's just a slogan of we try and help everybody and make sense of everything. But the actual brand is what you guys think of it. So the brand is different to everybody. The brand should bring comfort. It should bring calmness. It should bring understanding. Like we want when people think of making Etsy make sense for it to bring those things, but the actual brand is what you think it is. Branding is more about the actions that you take to get there. So creating a logo, creating a social media campaign, doing marketing, doing advertising, that all is all part of how you influence people to perceive. So branding is the influencing and your brand is the actual perception. Did I make that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. So your brand is actually the gut feeling, and then your branding is the process of doing that. So think of it as it's a noun. Brand would be a noun versus the adjective of branding. Branding is the action of doing so. Think of it like the origin of it, like cow branding. You know, the brand on the cow, but you're branding the cow.
Yeah. And saying, this is mine, but it's also so that others know it's yours. It's so that it's the perception of what that brand means as well.
It's a like a mark of ownership, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this continuing here?
Yep.
Split it all up.
Well, it's multiple pages. we did not rehearse because we're tired and I've been sick. All right, so what's next?
So next we'll just explain, kind of break it up and explain brand and then branding. So basically, like a good way to explain it, I'm going to read this quote. A brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization. That was Marty Neumeier. He's an author and a writer. He talks about brands. He talks about like design and innovation and that kind of thing. And he worked for like Adobe, Hewlett Packard, Microsoft. So he's kind of an authority on the topic, and that's how he explains it. So it's your brand is the gut feeling that other people get from what you're putting out there, from like when they see your brand,
or when they think about your brand, or when they see any of your branding. When you hear just do it, you think of running shoes, you think of athleticism, you think of all the different things. You don't necessarily think of a swoosh. You don't necessarily have to think of the brand elements. It's what you feel when you think of the brand, any aspect of it.
Yeah. So it's their perception of you. It's not what you think of yourself. It's other people's perception of you. So what you're putting out there and how they're taking that, and you want to be very direct in and making sure that people understand what you're trying to accomplish with your brand, what you're going for. So like the things that would make that up, like your values, your reputation, the public image, how the public sees you, and the customer feeling that people get from that, your popularity online or social media, or however, that all plays into it, and that would be part of your invisible branding. um, we'll break it up. Basically, invisible branding is all the things that kind of like happen behind the scenes, so all of those things, versus your
versus the visible branding, which
visible
is your
branding.
logo, which is your slogan, which is all the forward facing things, which we're going to talk about as well, and how to do those types of things on Etsy, and where the fields are for your visible branding and the stuff that you put out there to create that perception.
So basically, all of these things build trust with your customer, which is huge. You really want to, that's everything. If you don't trust a company, you're not going to buy from them, and that's it. So you really want to build that for people. It'll kind of position you as a leader in your industry. So you're kind of the one that they would go to. You're the expert in the subject matter, and that's how you want to be seen. You want people to, when they think of you, they think of like, oh, that's the sticker company, or that's and however you want to accomplish that.
So when people think of stickers, they think of you, but also when they see your listings come up in search, they can easily identify, oh, I know exactly whose those are. And those are just different aspects of building a brand and building that trust, where people just understand who you are. They understand your values. They understand everything about your company just by looking at the visible things you put out there, and bringing in all the invisible stuff that you're doing in the background too.
I mean, you think about Bryan, like a lot of Bryan from the Facebook groups and stuff like that. And you know him for being honest and informative and trustworthy. Informative, and that's his brand, essentially. It's not
Sweet.
It's not our little bitmojis. It's everything that's behind that. It's the feeling that you get when you think of, oh, Bryan knows, or tag Bryan in this, or Bryan will know the answer to that. That's coming from that place of trust and all that.
So sweet. People trust me.
Yeah, they do.
But that's part of my branding, and it just happens to be who I am as well, which works out really well. But that's part of my branding, is creating that perception of trust and of just knowledge and everything else that comes with that. That's how branding works. That's how your actual brand works. It has nothing to do with the Bitmoji. It has nothing to do with any of the other things that I can do. It's what people think of when they think of me. That's what actually matters. The Bitmojis, that's new. But people have been, but my brand and the Bryan that's been helping people has been around for years and years and years. And so my brand superseded any of the branding, any of the brand elements, like a logo or like a slogan or like anything like that, or even the name Bryan Support. That came long after I've been supporting people for a very long time. So I actually built the brand of myself long before putting together any of these brand elements.
Okay. Yeah. So it's people's perception of you. That is your brand. That's everything. And like I said, that's made up of like your values, your reputation, your public image, all of that stuff. That in itself is a lot of information to take in, and probably not what you thought branding really was. Do you guys have any questions? Are we good? Will we move on?
I remember there's like a 20 to 30-second delay from when we say something to when you hear it. We've already said that. You got it's live, but you guys are seeing the past. We're already in the future. Hi from the future.
All right, we'll just have a little dance.
That was
break.
exciting. That was exciting to me.
Okay, cool.
I get excited easily, I guess.
Joni said, "So true." I can't read that. My eyes are bad.
So true. I tend to go through comments on Facebook groups to look for Bryan's comments. Hopefully, that's kind of the percent. That's what I want to put out there. I know things, and there's a lot of people that don't know things that talk like they know things, and so looking for the right answers is usually better than just finding any answer. And I'm someone that does not sugarcoat, and I don't. I'll say something in the nicest way possible, but I will not tell someone something that isn't the truth just because that seems like the better answer. And that's kind of how I've branded myself throughout life.
But yeah, Joni, like that, and that's exactly it, is that he's a trusted source for you, and that's his brand, and that's coming through to you, and that's why you're looking for his stuff. And that's best case scenario. That's exactly what you want, is you want customers to have that reaction to
That
your
positive
shop.
reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, cool. So let's go a little bit deeper into it. So we'll explain branding. And
Sharon said integrity. Exactly.
And
hi, Sharon.
All right, so explain brand. Now kind of let's go into branding. First we'll just say what it's not. It's not specifically just, we'll say that, because it does encompass these things, but it's not just your logo, it's not your slogan, it's not your product or your marketing. These are all things that are visual branding. So this is all stuff that you're putting out there that your customers are actually seeing. What it is it's the action of creating them, basically. So you're using them together to help influence people's opinion about you. Basically, it's like a summarization of the experiences and emotions, and the associations that a customer has of you. And yeah, like your reviews, that's a great thing. Just seeing your reviews and seeing if that's actually coming through for you.
That's a visible way to see people's perception of you. So the reviews, while they are to kind of let other people know about your brand, it's also to let you know how people see you, because you don't know. You just assume that when people see your shop, they think a certain way, but they might not. And that's where reviews come in. That's where asking family and friends comes in. That's where asking in the group, what does this logo make you think, or what does it make you feel? Because that, what other people think about those branding elements, is a lot more important than what you do.
You do it's other people's opinion of you.
Yeah.
Branding is the art and science of influencing perception about a product, a service, a person, an organization. So it's the art of actually influencing. Again, it's that adjective, it's that describe, or that action word. So yeah. So you've got your brand, and then you've got your actual branding.
And the branding is the action of brands.
And that's like a branding agency. If you were to hire a branding agency, that's their role. That would be to use branding to further your business. They're to help you be intentional about what what you're putting out there to get that feeling back. Like influencers, the same thing. You're today's modern influencers, you're using social media to give people that perception, to influence people to have that perception of your business. And it's very direct. They're very directly targeting these people with what they want them to think about you.
And it's the same way that colors are used, where certain colors influence you to think a certain way or to feel a certain way. That's what influencers are doing. They're creating a branding around influencing and around getting people to think and to feel a certain way. And that's also what a brand agency does. That's what marketing does. That's what all of these things that we put out into the world are meant to do, is make people feel a certain way about our product or about our company, and influence them to like us, or influence them to have a positive thought about us, without actually saying, hey, think about us, feel good about us. It's about putting it out there and making people have their own opinions and trying to influence them in a positive way and get them to feel that. Sharon said, I believe that the Star Seller badge helps elevate a shop's brand. People whose shops don't have it poo-poo it, but I personally feel more confident when buying from shops with the Star Seller badge. Exactly. That's part of branding. That's Etsy saying, we trust these people, you should too. So it's Etsy helping to influence people's perceptions on us. While the Star Seller badge itself doesn't actually make a difference, that if there's two things lined up side by side and everything else is equal, it's more likely people are going to go with what other people have trusted, which are the shops with a Star Seller badge, the shops with more reviews, the shops with just more of a positive feel about them. Because once again, it's about that influencing, it's about that perception of what people think of your brand. And sometimes what people think of your brand is your brand itself. And sometimes it's little other elements like that, like other accolades that you got, such as the Star Seller badge, such as any other accolades that you have. Those are just there to help influence perception. So those can be used as branding to influence people's perception of your brand. Yeah, but I like your shoulders.
And it's backwards, so I keep like going to the wrong shoulder. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So far, I hope that's making sense for you guys. The biggest thing to take away from this is your people's perception of you is what you're trying to achieve with branding and promoting your brand and all that stuff. Is whatever feeling you're trying to get from people, that's it. Their perception of you is everything. Think of like a company that I'm not gonna name any bad companies, but a company that you got something from, that a clothing company maybe, and there was a lot of hype about it, but when you got it, the quality was really bad. They're giving you a really bad perception of them.
So they've essentially hurt their branding by doing that. They've actually minimized a little bit of their brand by sending you something poor, because you're now going to tell everybody else, and they're going to have that same perception. They're going to be influenced by your feelings about their brand. And so it's always good to be consistent with quality and that type of stuff for that reason. Facebook user said, should you put your name on every ad? If you mean every listing, no. That's the whole thing with branding, is branding does not mean that you're necessarily putting your logo or your name on everything. It could be a certain color palette, or a certain way of taking photos, or just a certain lighting, or certain something about your product or about your ads or about your listings that make people feel a certain way, and they just know it's you.
She likes
microphones apparently. and he hurt my train there. So when you're thinking of a brand, when you see a McDonald's ad, you're not going to mistake that for a Burger King ad, even though they're both burger places. When you see the ads, you actually get a completely different feel when you see the commercial or when you see the advertisement, because that's the branding. The branding isn't necessarily splashing their logo on the screen so you're like, oh, that's McDonald's, oh, that's Starbucks, oh, that's whatever. You just know it by seeing little aspects of it. And that is the branding. That's what you want to create with your listings and with any advertising or marketing that you do, is when people see it, they just know it's you. You laughed. I missed something?
I'm just reading the chat.
Oh, you're reading the chat.
I think you got to it as she was typing it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so sorry, I lose my train of thought easy sometimes.
You're sick. We'll forgive you.
Exactly. Please forgive me. But yeah, it's about giving the feeling. There's certain products that when we see, Renfield's Attic, when we see their signs come up in our feeds, in our Instagram feeds, we know instantly it's them, even though there's thousands of different things that come up in our feeds. We know instantly that's them, even though it doesn't have their logo right there front and center. We just instantly know, oh yeah, I know exactly who that is. That's kind of what you're trying to create. That's the branding. That's the perception and the influence that you have there, is just seeing something and knowing, I know exactly what that is. So it doesn't have to have your logo. It doesn't have to have the golden arches. It doesn't have to have just a big branding across the screen. It's about people knowing your brand and understanding it just by seeing it, or just by seeing something similar. Facebook user says, I've heard that using your store name as a tag is good. Yes. We use it as a tag. A lot of time when you're searching on Etsy, you will have the choice to either just search or search by shop name. And if someone just hits search, then then your listing won't show up unless it's in your tag or title, because your store name is not an SEO field as far as Etsy search goes. So if someone isn't, if someone's looking for your branding, if someone's looking for your brand, they actually won't be able to find it easily unless you have it as a title and tag, which means other people's listings will show up if they have elements of your shop name in their title or tags. Joni says, I've struggled with what to do with social media, but I've already got some good ideas since this live started, as I do know how I want people to feel about my products. And that's the thing, is it's not about what you think about your products, because you're holding your product. You already have your product. You already have passion for your product. It's making other people have that same feeling too. When you see a car commercial, you'll see the car going fast, because that's to give people that, ooh, I can go fast with that car. Ooh, it's that feeling. When you see a Jeep commercial and they're in some rugged terrain, oh, I go camping with that. That's the feeling that you're giving without directly saying it. And that's the perception that you want to give people. It's not just about saying, this is what my product is and this is what my product does. It's showing it and making other people think of your product and see it in that light as well.
He's such a nuisance today.
He's such a nuisance today. Is it a negative to use duplicate photos on Etsy? Like when you use the same describer photo with general material info for each listing? No. We do that as well. We have light switch covers, and and so we'll have the individual photos of the individual products as well, but then a photo that shows just a standard template that goes across all of them. Our color guide is the same across all of our photos, and it's a product. It's one of the products that we sell in all of the colors. But we have that across all listings because it's just easier that way. There was stickiness on that. He likes to lick stickiness. So there's nothing wrong with having a with using a single photo to describe your product across all your products. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you could add branding elements to that. So that should be in your color palette. That should potentially have your logo on it so that no one else can use. Like, it should have branding elements on it as well, just so that when people see it, they think of you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to talk about things that can potentially hurt your brand. Just a couple of things to keep in mind with when you're going about your branding, that kind of thing. So being ambiguous, so not being direct and being really clear about what your brand stands for. That's not something you want to leave to interpretation. You don't want to have people try to figure that out on their own, because then everybody's going to have a different interpretation of what you're trying to put out there.
And they will likely not have the same interpretation that you want them to have.
Yeah.
So if you kind of just if your logo is just ambiguous and just doesn't really say what you are, or if your tagline doesn't tell people what you sell or give people a feeling, they're going to come up with their own things. And once you lose control of that, it's a lot harder to rein it in and get people to think of your brand the way that you want them to. Does that make sense? Yeah. So be intentional with So be intentional with it, and don't let people try and figure it out themselves, because you never know what people are going to think of your stuff. So by creating by giving examples, by showing your product in use, by showing your brand the way that you actually feel, by an about section is the perfect way to show who you are and give intention to what you're saying, and show off your brand messaging. These are things that you can use to intentionally show, to intentionally steer what people think about you and about your brand, and kind of get into their minds and give them that good gut feeling about you.
Yeah. Putting your values and all of that into what you're doing. If environmental, like if you sell environmentally friendly products, and that's your, that's what you guys stand for, and maybe you donate to environmental funds, that kind of thing. So you want to push that, you want to keep that out there, you want to keep that in people's minds, that like, oh, they stand for saving the environment and all that kind of stuff. So wherever you can, you really want to interject that into your marketing, and maybe your logo is of a green color. All of these things are going to give that perception to people and keep that in their minds, in the back of their minds. Recyclable packaging. Exactly. Yeah. In all aspects, you want to make sure that you're kind of interjecting that, and so that people can continuously get that feeling.
Facebook user says, how do you show that? Where?
So like I said, your social media marketing, you can put that in your descriptions on Etsy. You can just put it everywhere.
In your banner, in your it could be kind of incorporated into your logo. If you're green, there should be a leaf of some sort or something to kind of show that off. In your tagline, in your announcements, in your product descriptions, in your product photos, in your about section. All of these places on Etsy itself are there for that purpose, to show off your branding and to kind of let you influence people and give you opportunities to show them who you are and what it is that you stand for.
Yeah. Just like in social media is great, and that's why so you have social media influencers putting that out there constantly. And you don't necessarily have to say it, but you're showing it in your actions. Like you're using your recyclable packaging when you're doing your like packaging videos and things like that. It doesn't always have to be in your face for people. It's just I lost the word that I was looking for. But just like sprinkling it in there everywhere, but keeping it, excuse me, it'll keep it at the top of people's minds always that this is what you stand for. This is what your values are. Yeah.
And keep them consistent, because that's one thing that really hurts a brand as well, is inconsistency. If you're putting it out there that you are green and everything, and then you're seen doing something not green, then all of a sudden you have plastic packaging that isn't green plastic, then all of a sudden you are not consistent with your brand, and that can hurt your brand identity, because people are thinking one thing, and then once they see something else, that's now what they're thinking. So you kind of have to worry about consistency and being consistent with your branding, with all the visible things, keeping a similar color scheme, keeping a similar font, like keeping the same kind of wording. A lot of people are using AI for titles, descriptions, that kind of thing now. If you're not changing those into your voice or into your brand's voice, then it no longer sounds like it's coming from you.
When you read something that's written by AI, you can tell that it's written by AI because it's a jarbled mess of words that you would never use. I mean, unless you're an author and you're used to talking in completely overly descriptive ways.
Which is the problem that I have, because I'm used to typing in a very descriptive way and using 3 examples and throwing in too many commas. My writing looks like AI. I think AI models seem to be based on my writing style. It's very frustrating.
Brian's just a computer.
I'm just a computer. I'm a walking computer, and it's a thing.
But you can tell when something's written by AI. It's just it's overly descriptive, and it's yeah. Sometimes it's too much. It's just so using AI, and we'll talk about that at another time. There's responsible ways that you can use AI to help you write your descriptions or like your captions and all that kind of stuff, but always reword it into your own voice, because people will tell right away that it's not you.
It's true. Another place to keep consistent is in your customer service and anything else that's kind of invisible or behind the scenes. If you're really nice to some people and really rude to others, you have that inconsistent branding, so people think very differently about your brand, and you kind of want people to have the same feeling. That's something that you can control, is how people feel about your brand in that instance. So kind of keep that consistent with the rest of your branding. If you're selling baby clothes, then any customer service experience that you're giving people should have that kind of same mom to mom kind of feel.
Well, it should be the same across the board.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes to your shop once and buys something from you, the experience that they have needs to be exactly the same as the experience they get on the second time, because you've already set that precedent now, and they're going to expect that going forward. If you don't fulfill that continually and keep it at the same level, they're going to notice, and they're going to say, oh, well, the last time I bought from them, their quality went down or whatever, and that hurts your brand.
You've set the expectation, and so you can exceed expectations, but try not to step down from them, because that can hurt your branding.
Yeah. If you sent somebody something in this beautiful packaging and you took a lot of time and all that stuff, and then the second time they got it, you just threw it in the box, they're going to notice. They're good, that kind of thing. You want to stay consistent right across the board.
They're not going to
know. Customer service. You're going to want to make sure that you're treating everybody exactly the same, that you're giving the same customer service across the board. And that works for your Etsy shop and your website. So wherever they go, you want to make sure that they're getting the same experience. When they talk about it to their friends, and their friends come to buy from you, you want their friends to have the same experience that they had. You want it all to be the same across the board. If you have a brick and mortar store, when they walk into your store, you want them to have the same or maybe in a better experience than, than your Etsy shop or your web, whatever. Keep it the same.
Exactly. Facebook user says, I found branding more difficult for selling digital downloads. Most of my stuff is holiday related. I try to sell that I'm a mom, former teacher, etc. It's a bit more difficult because you're not sending a physical product, but everything else is the same. You still have a logo, you still have a banner, you still have an announcement, you still have an about section, you still have a listing description. Even though it's a digital download, you could make it a zip file with your story as one of the files within the zip file, or just something to kind of keep your branding going.
Even though they're not getting a physical product, they're still getting a product from you. So they're still going to see if it's a quality file, if it's scalable, and like all that kind of stuff. So they're still getting something from you. So it's still everything else would still apply.
I guess they kind of have digital products, but like Google, or think of Yahoo or something like that, where they are just digital. They're just digital. Facebook is just a digital company, but we still have a perception of their brand. We still have a certain feeling when we think of Facebook, or when we think of TikTok, or when we think of any of these other services that are just digital. Their branding is still very strong. So just because you're digital doesn't mean that that's it. It's just done. There's still lots of opportunities for branding. And your banner on Etsy is a great place to start, where you could show that you're a mom and you're selling these things and all that type of thing. Joni says, should we all be using our shop names and watching lives for branding?
You can.
It does give people reminders of who you are, which is part of branding. But what does it do for how people think about you? Does that change people's perception of you? Does that change anything? Does it influence people to come to your shop just because they saw your name asking a question? Those are things that you need to ask, because does it really matter? That's the question.
I mean, I guess it depends. Like for us, I mean, sure, it's going to connect people with you. It's going to connect you with your shop for people, but people are either going to see your name or they're going to see your shop. Just remember that when you're talking using your shop name, that whatever you say can be used, will change people's perception of you. So if you're talking smack under your company name, then that's going to reflect on you, and that's going to reflect on your branding. So you can, it's great. I mean, for us, we love seeing your name, but we also love seeing your shop, but we won't see both. So we'll, if we don't know your name, if we don't already have your name associated with your shop, then we'll either see one or the other. We'll either know it's you, or we'll just know it's your shop. But in a public kind of setting, if you're watching lives for, I don't know, with thousands and thousands of people in them, or for whatever, just be aware of what you're saying, because it's coming from your brand as opposed to you, which people may not associate with your brand. They might, depending on who you are. If you're well known, if you put yourself out there for your brand, then people will know you and your brand.
It's like something coming from a Coca-Cola account versus from the owner of Coca-Cola, whoever that is. I actually don't know.
See, and that's exactly the point.
Yeah. So I mean, in instances like this, it really doesn't matter. But in other types of lives or other types of public settings, if you're watching Twitch and so you're commenting on someone playing a game and stuff like that, does that have anything to do with your brand? Because someone might be able to find Twitch conversations. I'm not sure if they still show up afterwards. But if they do, I know that TikTok comments do. So if you're commenting on a TikTok, someone can actually find your comment. So you want it to still represent your brand. If you're commenting something that doesn't represent your brand, or that represents you personally, then that's better to do personally. Right? Yeah, it made sense. Okay. Sorry, I'm still sick, so my brain doesn't necessarily think a pinch of cute. as we were just talking
Oh,
about.
it's
Emma.
Emma
Yep.
is okay.
I noticed that eRank's listing helper usually starts descriptions with introducing our. I always edit that. Yeah. It's
Yeah, it's
titles and tags great. The descriptions are also great. It's just you have to do a lot more editing to put it in your own voice because they're very sales pitchy. But there's always elements of them to take, but they're very sales pitchy. Facebook user says, my style is AI. It's the teacher in me. I have to go back and make it more common, but AI is really helpful with ideas, tags. Exactly. AI has amazing uses, and we're gonna do a whole thing on AI as well. There's a lot of great uses of AI. There's also ways that can be taken advantage of, and ways that can be used in negative ways, just like everything else. The internet is a great tool. It could also be used in a negative way. Everything has positives and negatives, and AI is one of them. But when it comes to branding, changing whatever AI gives you, because AI is great for coming up with slogans, for coming up with advertising ideas, for coming up with whatever
social media
posts.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of changing it to your brand's voice, because the AI is going to be very generic, or it's going to try and come up with some sort of voice, and you just have to kind of adapt it to your brand's voice. That way you're giving that perception of your brand in text that isn't necessarily your text.
And that's part of keeping it consistent as well. If you all of a sudden start using AI when you've been talking through your own personal voice and how you would write things, and that's, people are going to notice that, and it's going to seem kind of odd that all of a sudden you became this very wordy person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say about things that can hurt your brand, social media. So like your presence on social media, people, especially these days, are really looking at that. If somebody mentions you in, like, somebody gets your product and they do an unboxing, or they mention you in their Facebook post or whatever, or Instagram post, that kind of thing. Try to respond quickly. You don't want to give them the impression that you don't have time for them, or you're too busy, or
you don't care.
You don't care. Brands try to be really up on their social media, and that's one of the things, is you don't want to give that negative impression that, oh, we're too good for you. Like, oh, good thing you got it. Who cares? On to the next person. You really kind of want to tailor things to people. And
think of how you feel when a brand responds to you, when you say, oh, I love this product, or I went to this concert, or whatever it is, and the brand or the artist or whoever responds to you, you're like, oh, that's wicked. Like the person actually took time from their day to get back to me. Like, you're almost fanboying or fangirling, and they're actually responding to you, and that's just really cool. And that increases the perception of your brand, of who you are as a company.
And it also gives that
exponentially
that emotional connection that you're trying to have with people. That's one-on-one. It doesn't get any better than that. Actually, just, speaking to them directly, and that just reinforces all of this branding ideas that they have about you already. Just reinforces them and that in their mind. So yeah, you definitely want to do that. You don't want to lose trust with your customers. You want to keep that trust and that confidence that they have in you and your brand, and you want to carry that all the way through everything that you do.
Facebook user says, how do you find a happy medium of fixing and improving your shop? And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. When it comes to branding and stuff like that, that's something that is a lot easier to change. You don't want to constantly be changing it, because you do want your brand to be consistent.
Changing it.
But changing your color scheme, changing your, like, if one day someone wakes up and your shop looks different, and all of a sudden everything is teal, and that's your brand, and that's going to be your brand going forward, you might as well do it now. Don't be subtle with that. rebrand and talk about your rebranding on social media, rebranded, and this is what, and really get it out there that that's your rebranding and that's who you are and what you're trying to do.
Don't take rebranding lightly. It's not a small thing. If you're going to revamp your whole branding and you're going to change your logo or you're going to change your name and your color scheme and you're going to revamp everything, that's a huge undertaking. And you want to put it out there. You want to advertise that it's going to be changing. Let people know that, you know, you're doing a rebranding. But yeah, don't take it lightly, and don't just change. I mean, I guess you can just change things if you want to. If there's only like, if you were like, oh, the color scheme, I just want to change the color scheme, then you figure it out, see if that's going to work for you, and then do it. But like an entire shop rebranding is a huge undertaking. And you want to put in all of the work and have it all set up before you even start saying that you're going to rebrand, and before you make any massive overhaul of things.
But to just fix things. So if there's if you rethought about what your color scheme should be, so you can change little elements here and there. You don't have to change all of your photos on day one, that type of stuff. You can slowly, incrementally do certain things, but as long as it kind of remains consistent, as long as
Hey Pam.
As long as it I don't know. My words lost. I lost my words.
I got distracted by Pam and didn't listen to what you said at all.
But see, Pam is one of those ones where we know her brand, and we're still starstruck when she actually talks to us.
Bryan works with her, talks every day.
But when it comes to fixing and improving, think about it before you do it. If you're going to change your logo, you have to think long and hard about that. If you're just changing your banner for the season, that's a little bit less thinking about. When it comes to changing your photos, that's a large undertaking if you have a lot of listings or a lot of products. So finding that happy medium is not an easy thing to do in the first place. There's a lot of nuance that comes with that, and you kind of just want to experiment.
Yeah, and fixing a listing that maybe isn't working for you and rebranding your shop, two totally separate things, two totally separate undertakings. But yeah.
Is it better to have all the same colors in photos? No, but yes. It's more about the feeling that people get when they see your photo. You want them to you want your photos to kind of give that same perception of who you are, and that's influence them in a certain way that when they see your photos, they think of your shop. So it doesn't necessarily have to have your color palette, or it doesn't have to have that, as long as you get that same emotion behind it, because that's what branding is. It's that emotion behind it. That's a scam call.
Bryan never turns off the volume on his phone.
And I never turn off the volume on my phone because I'm
yeah.
person.
But you don't have to have the same colors in all of your listing photos. But you want to make sure that the color scheme that you have for your business is shown through everything that you do. So it doesn't necessarily, but if all of your backgrounds are consistent, then that's kind of the same thing. They can be consistent with your color scheme if that's what you want, and that will give your shop like a certain look to it as well. When people are scrolling through, everything looks consistent. You can do that, but not all of your stuff is going to be the same color. Unless it is, and you can.
So if we put a coupon in the packaging for a customer, we should keep consistent and put a coupon each time the customer shops with our store in their packaging. Not necessarily. If you constantly do have a sale, then change up the coupon. Make it seasonal. Make it have a purpose instead of just thanks for buying from me. Here's some money. Make it have a purpose and make it you can use that for your branding as well. If you sell seasonal items, it makes it a lot easier because then the coupon could be the same seasonal type brand or the next season with your items.
When we do a drop for like a holiday, so when we do like a Halloween drop, usually I'll put in a little promo. I make my own little promo things, and I'll have a discount, and I'll actually have on it, thank you for shopping with us for Halloween. Enjoy this discount on your next purchase. But I don't do that all the rest of the year. But people know that if they shop with us on Halloween, your drop or Halloween drop or whatever every year, that they will get a coupon. And it's that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be all the time, but you're still having that consistency.
Exactly.
This is gonna go long.
Yep.
So basically, we want to talk about what you can do. So good things for you to do for your branding. We're not really talking a whole lot about logos, but of course, your name, your logo, slogan, your colors, your fonts, all that stuff that you use for your brand. It's on 2 pages and it keeps confusing me. I just use my phone, so it's all in one. Yeah, so like because those elements are only part of your branding, we're not really talking that much about them, but we will talk a little bit about them. So you do want to have a name that's easy to remember. It's easy to pronounce. You don't want to have a convoluted name that people don't know how to say it. That's really important. Maybe have it being something different. You can take 2 words and put them together, but make sure that it still conveys your brand. It conveys everything that you're going for in your branding, all of your values and that kind of thing. Put that into everything that you're doing. But yeah, so your name kind of, it doesn't have to specifically say what products that you sell or anything. And that's a thing with the name is you don't want to like pigeonhole yourself into saying I sell cards, and then when you want to sell other party stuff or you want to branch out into other things, stickers or something, that you're not just a card shop, that kind of thing. But make it easy for people to remember so they're not struggling. Your brain doesn't like to struggle with things, so just you don't want to make it your name too hard for people. The same with like your slogan. You want it to be memorable. You want it to kind of like roll off the tongue, but you want it to encompass all the things that you're trying to portray to your customer and persuade them to think and feel and get that feeling about your brand. Your logo. So you want it to say something about you and all of that, convey your brand, but at the same time you want it to be kind of simple. A lot of people overdo their logo, and it's busy. It's a lot. The other thing you have to think about with a logo is you want it to be scalable. So if you're doing little business cards or promo cards and stuff like that and putting them in,
look good when it's this big.
yeah, you still need it to be readable and people to be able to understand it and see it very well when it's this big, as opposed to when it's, your entire banner on your. So those are just a couple of things to think about those things. Your colors. So there's a whole psychology about colors and the feelings that they evoke for people, and the messaging, excuse me, that comes across with the colors that you choose. I'm just gonna talk slightly about colors because that could be like a whole video in itself, really. but their colors create a strong emotional connection with people. So you know yourself, like when you see yellow, it's a very warm, cheerful, happy kind of color. And it gives the feeling and the emotion of excitement, um, innovation. So you'll see a lot of like tech companies and things like that. They use yellow in their logos. Communications companies, things like that. Blue is like a calming color. So it kind of gives the emotional feel of trustworthy, dependable, responsible. Red. Red is an impulse color, so excitement, passion. That's why a lot of times for sale signs and things like that, you'll see them in red. It grabs your attention and it helps with that impulse buy. Purple. Purple is kind of a mysterious color. Sophistication, elegance, uh, wise, that kind of thing. These are all the emotions that these colors bring up for you. And when you're using them in your marketing or for your branding, these are all things that you want to convey to your customer. So you want to make sure that your colors are also conveying that when they're looking at your website, they're getting that feeling. I threw black in here just because. Black is like sophistication, elegance. Your black cocktail party dress. It also gives like an authority type of thing. One thing to think about colors is they're not always positive. It's not always going to be a positive thing that they're going to bring about for you. Yellow, caution, like a wet floor sign or a yield sign, things like that. Red would be like danger or stop. Moody is purple, gives like and that could be good or bad depending on what you're going for. Black, most people think of mourning, funerals and stuff like that. So if you have a spooky shop or that's where you're going for, like us, and that's great. For other people it might be more of a negative thing. Generally you want to pick about 1 to 4 colors for your branding. You don't want to go crazy because it's just not going to make sense. Yeah. And I mean, since Pam is here, I'm just going to use you as an example. Pam's hair. That is kind of her brand. That became her branding colors. And she uses that on her YouTube and
and everywhere else that you see her. You're going to notice those colors, and when it flashes by on in your YouTube feed, instantly you know it's her, just because of those splashes of colors that no one else is using in that particular pattern.
Yeah.
Branding,
and that's there's personal branding, and then there's your business branding, and yeah. Those questions? I can't read. Oh, the ghosts behind us are cute.
I've been trying to use kitchen photos. Is that an emotion kind of feeling?
Kitchen photos. I mean, yeah, that's going to give people an idea that that's what you're going. That's what you're selling.
People will have a thought when you see a kitchen, when you see a living room, when you see a den, when you see a basement. All of these different rooms give different feelings, and everyone's going to have different feelings of those particular rooms.
I'm from Newfoundland, and we all gather in the kitchen. The kitchen is the party place. When you come to somebody's house, you all sit around the kitchen table and you all party. That's how it goes.
But it's going to have different connotations to a lot of different people. A basement is probably the best example of that, where in my house growing up, the basement was the kids' play space. So we would go downstairs to this unfinished basement, and that's where we had all our toys, and that's where we played and everything. But to other people, it could be that deep, dark, scary place with the pull cord lighting, and it's like a little dungeon. But to other people, it's a bright, brilliant place that you had a lot of fun. So it can spark very different emotions in different people. So yes, it is a branding, it is an emotional kind of feeling. You just have to kind of control that feeling and make it a positive one instead of potentially a negative one.
The color of the kitchen can also be when you're thinking of like family getting together and having dinner and happiness and like all that kind of stuff. But if you had a if you have a blue kitchen, blue tends to be more of an appetite suppressant. So is it going to be if you're showing cookies or whatever on a blue plate, is that going to make people want them as much as like a red, which would be more of a hungry color?
That
It's
explains it. We had a salmon kitchen growing up. It was salmon colored.
salmon,
Yeah.
and you don't even eat it.
Do not even eat it. We like our ghosts.
Thank you.
When using colors, also check the color wheel. Complementary colors make it stick out more. Yep.
There's a whole psychology about colors, not how they feel, how they work together. Yeah. So.
And in the future, we're going to do a whole video on color schemes and what it makes people feel. We just kind of want to brush on that for branding purposes right now, but it's a huge topic. Colors are important. Should use the mouse instead of the computer. Big hot and cold color works well. Yep. And then black reminds me of White House Black Market. It reminds us of everything that's fun. All of the walls in our apartment are black. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
Our closets are all black, but that's because of the clothes in them. Black's a thing.
Anyway, we're kind of going over here, but there's a few more things that I want to talk about. So when you're talking about the topic of this video is hooking your customers with your branding. The way you're going to do that is by being memorable. You want to stick in their minds. You want to be memorable, and that's what I was saying about your name and all that stuff. You want that to be memorable and easy for people. So your brand experience, that's essential for you standing out amongst your competitors, standing out amongst the crowd, is that experience that you're giving and that your brand is portraying. It's more than just selling products. It's building that emotional connection with your customers. And basically that's going to leave a lasting impression with them. And whether that's a good impression or a bad impression, that's up to you. And that's what you're trying to do with your branding, is make sure that that's a good impression. So a couple of things that you can do for your branding. The number one thing that you want to do is understand your audience. So different audiences have different preferences, pain points. Their desires are going to be different, and how you're going to market and brand to them is going to be different. Basically, do your market research, gather all the information about what they're actually looking for, so that you can tailor all of the things that you do towards your target audience, and what they're looking for, and how the best way to interact with them or to reach them is. So yeah, understanding your audience, that's the biggest thing that you can do. If not, you're just putting it all out there and it's bouncing off and it's nothing sticking. And yeah. So you want to define your brand identity. If you haven't done that already, that's a great thing to think about. So this is going to encompass like your core values, your mission, your personality. That's all going to play into your brand identity, and it's going to set the tone for basically every interaction you have with your audience going forward. You want it to be built around your brand identity. Yeah, make sure that all of that aligns with your target audience and their values. So yeah. No, nothing to add. Okay. Another way you can do that, or going forward, if you don't already have one, is doing a brand story. So the story of your brand is important, and that's going to stick with customers in their head, and it's going to make them remember you. A great way to think about that is if you watch Shark Tank. So a lot of these people in their pitch, they're telling their brand story, how they got started or why they got started. And usually it's, aligns with their values and things like that. You might not remember the product, but you remember the people, you remember their pitch, and you remember their story. So that's a great way to think about it, is that those types of things stick with people. Even if they don't remember your name, they'll say, oh, what was that product? It was, they had that great story about how they got started. And so that also humanizes it also humanizes your brand. It gives it a really personable type of feeling for your customers. You're showcasing the people that are actually behind your brand, whether that's you or your employees, the founders of, which is probably you. But putting yourself, a lot of people don't like to put yourself out there, especially in your marketing. I see a lot of times influencers and things online and marketing influencers and stuff will talk about, oh, here's a bunch of ways to make a reel with like just your hands in it showing, and that's great. If you're kind of shy or something and you're just not into that, that's a great way to ease into it. But don't always be afraid to be in front of the camera and be yourself and show yourself, because that's how people are going to connect with you. That's how you're going to build that trust with people, and that's everything. Like I said, if you want to build that trust and you want to keep it. Okay. Consistency. We talked about this already. Just to touch on it again. So you're consistent with everything that you're doing across the board. So your brand image, and all the things that go along with that, like keeping your logo consistent. If your logo is different one place and then it's different on your website and your Instagram, then it's going to cause confusion for people. Your website, social media, packaging, your customer service, all those things, make sure that you're consistent with them. And like I said, that builds recognition, trust, and just enhances your overall brand experience. So the experience that the customer is getting when they're interacting with your brand, when they're buying from your brand, all of that stuff.
So Pam was adding to the last thing you were saying, which is be on camera shows you're really hand making your things, which customers love to see.
Yeah.
That's perfect for social media. That's also perfect for your listings. So within your listings, you can have a 15-second video with no audio. And so showing yourself making the product or just a product that you make adds a lot of branding to that, and a lot of trust that you are a handmade shop versus one of those mass-produced shops out there.
Yeah, it lets people get to know you, and that's what people need, is to know who the people like to know who they're buying from. And they put their trust in that, and unless you lose that, I trust people until they give me a reason to not trust them. And that a lot of people feel that way. Excuse me. Okay, so kind of rolling into the social media thing, create engaging content. So you want to produce content that kind of either educates or entertains. It really resonates with your audience. That blog posts, social media posts, like reels or stories, whatever you're using to do your social media, just kind of make sure that comes through, that people can kind of interact with it. That keeps your audience invested. So when they're interested in what you're saying, they're going to come back to see what you're saying. If you're not, if they're not interested, you're not engaging them, then they don't really have a reason to keep coming back. And that you want people to come back. You want people to be viewing your social media. You want the likes and the engagement and all that stuff. So try to create engaging things. Something you can do is create shareable things. So when a holiday comes around, make something that people can share, especially if you're in a niche. There might not be a lot of people in your niche that are doing that. So if you post a story that's something to do with your niche on a holiday, then people might share that, and then your name is actually attached to that, which by whoever. Yeah. So that's one great way to do that. Did you? Hovering over the mouse.
Kimmy asks, what would you suggest as a person who is a reseller of craft supplies, such as beads, jute, etc.?
So, I mean, you're still selling a product. So it's still, you're still trying to get that trust and everything that you're selling a quality product. Even whether it's a supply or a finished product, everything still applies. You still want to have all of those things, the trust in people, that people trust you for a quality product that's going to be consistent across the board, that every time they order from you, that they're going to get the same beads, that they're going to be, quality beads. Because if such as beads, so people are probably using those to make their own products, and they're depending on you to have consistency and everything with those so that they can have the consistency. So they're putting their trust in you. So you want to, just make sure that basically it all still applies. Yeah. Everything that we talked about kind of still applies.
Sharon said, I've heard that a call to action is important with social media posts.
Yeah. So that's also a great way to get engagement, is having some type of call to action, like this post. If you agree, save this post for later. Share this with somebody that you know, or somebody you think would like it, or something. Like it's like a call to action is prompting them to do something. Customers kind of like customers, your audience, they kind of like being told what to do, and they don't tell them what to, but giving that kind of those little prompts, that will help you, and it kind of gives it a direct, like, it lets you know what you would like them to do. Otherwise, you're just kind of leaving it out there, and that kind of falls into being ambiguous. You're just not being direct with what you want them to do with that content.
That's why you'll see most YouTubers say, don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all of the other things, because that little thing, even though you hear it over and over again, it actually reminds you to do it. It reminds the watcher to do it. Whether they've done it yet or not, they're now being prompted to do it. So those little calls to action, even though they seem like, am I really going to, they do work. People like to be told what to do.
They don't really, but
they like to be reminded what to do.
Subtle prompts like that are good. Where are we? Couple more things which we already talked about as well. Customer service. So you want to make sure you're providing exceptional customer service to everybody, and that's across the board, whether they're coming to your website, to your Etsy.
Sorry, I just like the video. Exactly.
Thanks, man.
Because when you're watching something, you're not even thinking about it. When you're seeing a post on Instagram, you're just scrolling your feed. But if something tells you, click here or hit the like button or comment with your favorite color, you tend to be more likely to do it. Those little calls to action, they work.
Somebody in the group, just going back to social media for a quick second, somebody in the group, we were talking about when I made that post, and I asked everybody, what's your biggest pain point with social media? A lot of you had some really great things, and I'm going to use that for another video. That was me doing market research, and for you guys to see what will resonate with you the best. But somebody mentioned that Motivation was kind of like a key thing across the board, where a lot of people on social media, it's kind of been a little bit of a turn that a lot of people on social media are finding that people aren't engaging as much on social media, and that can be kind of discouraging, and it doesn't make you really want to put the time into making quality content and all that kind of stuff. The thing about it is, people are still on social media. They're still looking. They're just not engaging.
You're still getting the same number of views, just less likes or comments.
And think about it yourself when you're scrolling through Instagram or you're scrolling through Facebook. You're just scrolling through. You might not necessarily be even reading everything, but that doesn't mean people aren't seeing what you're putting up. They're still seeing it. They just may not be commenting and things like that. So don't let that discourage you from making content, making quality content, all that kind of stuff. It's likely still being seen. Reels and stuff, that's, they can be seen or they cannot be seen. That's up to the algorithm, really. But in your feed and stuff like that, like, just remember that people are still on social media. They're still watching. They're still seeing what you're doing.
Even if they're not hitting that like button, even if they're not interacting with it, it is still being seen.
Yeah.
There is still a point of doing it, because that does increase your brand. That does, the more people see your stuff, whether they're interacting or not, the more likely they are to want to see more.
Just don't let it discourage you too much.
Yeah.
All right. So customer service. Your customer service is vital for your company. If somebody reaches out to you and gets bad customer service, they're never going to buy from you again, because you've lost all complete trust with that person. And yeah, that's it. Move on. You want to provide quick, friendly, helpful advice. Even if there's an issue, which we can do a whole thing on customer service as well. I have a huge background in customer service. Even when you have an issue, when a customer has an issue, that's just an opportunity for you to make it better, and you can create a loyal customer from that, all based on how you handle that issue. And I always like to say, if you do have an issue, make sure that you're offering them a solution. That's what they're coming to you for. They need reassurance and they need a solution. However that comes about is up to you and your business and what you can do and all that stuff. But that's the two things. When somebody's in distress, you want to reassure them and give them some type of solution that they can go towards. Irate customers sometimes can become your best customers. And don't just throw it away and say, oh, this person's being irate or angry or whatever, screw them. I'm not even going to deal with it. Don't do that. You want to have quality customer service, and sometimes that's uncomfortable and sometimes it's tough to deal with, but you can turn it around. Now, there's always going to be customers that you're just never going to be able to please, and that's going to happen too. But yeah, your customer service is huge in your branding. And you'll see it in your reviews and stuff too. People might say, oh, I had this issue with my order, but the seller did everything they could and made it right and whatever. So that's a huge thing for you.
Sharon said people in some Facebook groups seem to almost resent their customers with the way they talk about them. Yeah, we see that a lot as well. It's a very toxic. There's a lot of toxicity that you'll see in a lot of Facebook groups around. It's not just Etsy. It's around selling. It's around basically anything where it's almost like this entitlement of sellers that think that, oh, the buyer's just lucky that they have my item. And there's some weird things that go on, and there's a big difference between and they're showing their brand when they do that. They're really hurting themselves because they don't understand that buyers are also in those groups, and there's a lot of negativity out there, and you're only hurting your own branding by doing that. Yeah, customer service is the biggest for establishing your brand and showing customers who you really are.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. Even if you have a bad, if you go to a restaurant and you hated the meal, it was horrible, but they comped you and the customer service was above reproach, you will still recommend that place.
Yeah.
Versus before that, you were about to tell everybody never to eat there ever. So a little customer service goes a long way. Just keeping things positive, keeping things moving forward really, really helps.
And I can tell you right now, one of the worst things that you can do for your brand is shaming your customers online. And going into these, buy and sell groups and stuff like that, and shaming your customers, that looks so bad on you. that looks really bad.
Not only might they see it, and now all of a sudden you have a really pissed off customer, but also it just looks tacky. It makes your business, it makes you and your business look like you're just petty trash.
What kind of person are you to go online and shame somebody when you could have easily just helped them?
Yep.
It's a very like a holier than thou kind of. No, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yep. Tamara said, not allowed in my group. Yep. She runs the Etsy's Gone Gothic group, and you won't see any of that negativity there because it's just not allowed. It's so easy for negativity to spawn more negativity, and it's just, we're business owners. You don't need that. That's not going to motivate you to move forward and get better. And again, insulting customers never helps anyone. It makes you look so bad.
Yeah. Don't do that. Oh, yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah. Sharon said, my background is in customer services too, and it used to be that one unhappy customer will tell 15 other people. Exactly. That's exactly how it is, and it goes the other way too, except that one happy person will only tell 2 other people, but the unhappy spreads a lot faster, and so you want to kind of curb that where you can.
Yeah. So the physical experience that your customers are having. So when they actually interacting with you, but also when they get your product. So their experience, like unboxing your items, like giving them kind of like a unique unboxing, making them feel like they're opening a gift. A lot of times people aren't expecting that they're just assuming that it's going to be like Amazon. It's going to be thrown in a box with a, a air bubble.
But if you give that Victoria's Secret feeling when someone gets your package, huge. It's all about giving that feeling.
Even a piece of tissue paper in the box gives it like a nicer feeling. It's a nicer experience. It makes it feel like they
Like
actually cared when they packaged your item, and they cared how you were going to receive it and feel about it. That, like, the whole thing. Really take pride in what you're doing. That once the person gets your product, that's your last chance to kind of like really impress them and impress your brand, and your branding and your values and all that stuff. This is kind of your last chance to really push that. So kind of think about that when you're doing your packaging as well. Kind of creating like a memorable experience where and like a unique kind of experience, something that they're going to want to share. They're going to want to post an unboxing video on social media. And they know that the next time they get your package, that it's going to be like a fun thing. So like if they're feeling down and they want to treat themselves, that they know that they can order from you. And once they get it, they're going to like not only be excited for the product, but just like the experience,
the feeling.
Yeah. A couple other things you can do, like we talked about, you can kind of add in surprise elements, like little surprises for them. If you don't have to, obviously, but like if you wanted to include freebies, we like to include freebies for our repeat customers. Thank you notes, things like that. If you want to do handwritten notes, if you sell a lot of things, maybe that's going to be a little time consuming for you. You want to get them made. Yeah, or like discounts, like we were saying, if it's, you know, not necessarily all the time, if it's a special occasion and you're doing a special drop or something, or like celebrating an anniversary of your shop or something like that on a certain day, you can market that you'll be including this thing for free.
It gives that personal touch.
Halfway to Halloween is coming up real soon, and I like to, for people who buy on, it's April 30th, May 1st, it's May 2nd this year, I think, but anyway, within that time frame, I like to market that I will include a little trick-or-treat bag with some little cute freebies and stuff like that, and I've been doing that now for a couple of years. It's just that kind of thing. It's fun, and that all helps with your, you know, with that experience that the customer is getting. Yeah, and the one of the most important things, listen to your customers.
Listen to your customers.
Read your reviews and listen to what the customers are saying about you online. Whether it's good or bad, it's great for you to know. Yeah. If it's bad, take that advice, take that and make improvements and change what people are, you know, anything in negative that people are getting about your shop or from you or anything. Take that. Not necessarily take it to heart. Don't take it personally. Keep your business and your professional or personal and business, keep them separate. Don't take it to heart, but understand it and try to do what you can to fix it. To change it going forward, so that that's not the impression that people are getting from you, or that's not the experience that they're getting from you. Constructive criticism, that's what reviews are. When you get a negative review, I mean, there is the people who are just going to leave you a negative review. You know, there's always the other side of it and the exception. But take that as advice, take it with a grain of salt, and use it to better yourself. Better yourself or your business, whatever. So some of our even with your products, like listening to your customers is not just necessarily about reviews and things. Some of our best-selling products are actually customer requests, things that our customers asked us for or said, hey, you know, it would be really cool if you did this. And they turned out to be some of our best sellers and still are today. So
listen to your target audience, listen to your customers. They know what they want, sometimes better than you know what they want. Yeah, that's who you're catering to, so listen to what they had to say, because it's invaluable. So that's pretty much everything that we wanted to say. Just like a final note for you to take away from this, customers are drawn to authenticity. So that's gonna build trust and build loyalty with people. Be authentic and be genuine, and most importantly, be yourself. That's what you want. People are gonna love you. Be yourself, put yourself out there, and and that's your branding. Are there any other last minute questions that anyone has about branding, about anything that we've discussed? We only went a half hour over. Okay. I was like, oh, this is not a lot of notes. Okay. But it is a very convoluted topic. There is a lot to talk about. So Kimmy asked, do you suggest doing personal videos or showing new items in your shop? A way for customers to get to know you? Definitely. Yeah. Again, even if you're not comfortable being on camera and you just want to show your hands, or you want to do a stop motion of your process or something like that. We do a lot of shots of the printers doing their thing. So our social media feed has a lot of things being printed or products being made. People love seeing that. People love knowing that you're doing it in-house. That makes a huge difference, especially for Etsy sellers, where Etsy's kind of being filled up with stuff that isn't necessarily handmade items. Showing that your items are handmade in your listings, in your social media, is a great way to brand yourself as a handmade seller, someone that actually takes pride in what they're doing. And that's where getting comfortable on camera also works, because then you can show the pride. You could show how excited that you're as excited about your product as your customers are. And that is a huge selling point.
And I'm guilty of it too. I tend to not get on camera very much. So yeah, you might not see me, but I'm trying to be better, and this is all a learning experience for everybody involved. One thing I will say about being on camera is that there's this really great candle maker that I know. She's here in Canada. She's actually in Montreal. The shop is Graveyard Wanders, and when she does a new line and things like that, her actual marketing video might just be her holding the candle and then just blowing it out, and then it goes dark. She's still there, she's still showing off the product and stuff, but it's just like a cool way to, it doesn't necessarily, you don't even have to really be talking and things like that to kind of show. You could do a whole live showing off all of your new products and like all that kind of stuff. But yeah, when you were talking about it, it reminded me of her. And check out her shop if you
What was the shop again?
It's Graveyard Wanders. She also does some really nice perfumes. Yeah.
So thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all of the things. Join us in our Facebook group at Making Etsy Make Sense. And
thumbs up and like and subscribe and all that stuff that Bryan just said.
Do this. Or you can hit the thumbs down. Just interact. We like interaction. do anything you want. We're not going to tell you what to do. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Have a great week, guys.
See you in the group, and we'll talk to you again next week. This is my mouse hand.
Great.